Kate Lord-Brennan is talking to us of her time being an MLC, and good to talk to you. First of all, were you surprised? It happened that easily. I mean, you stood, you got in. I mean, we went through all that procedure. We're talking, at those hustings. But were you at all surprised?
Well, there was quite a build up to it, really, and I think that in the moment, what was the surprise was that the election was over quite quickly in the Keys sitting, because there was an expectation, as to how it's gone in previous years, that it would be something that could go on for quite a while.
It was quick, yeah.
It was quick. So I think you can tell from the photos at the time, which of course is nearly a year ago now.
How did you get? Do you remember how you got? How many points?
I can't remember actually now, because it's the oddest thing, because you're there, you hear the results. You can see from my face that I'm a little bit right. The seriousness of it then strikes you. So I was probably the least smiley, because I was like, no, right, that means serious job to do, and it is that straight away you're in, and you're cracking on with stuff straight away. So.
And what was it like, and how has it been? I mean, was it everything you thought it would be? Because some people said, wow, I didn't quite know what I was letting myself in for, almost in that sort of way.
Well, I think I had some awareness before I did get in, but what you can only really learn through that, and it has been nearly a year now, is that there's always different dynamics to something that might seem quite straightforward, and you think, right, it's just a case of speaking up on something or pointing something out. There's quite often other dynamics going in, and also just the sheer variety. I mean, even in one day you can be hopping from one issue to another. So I case particularly for MLCs, it's to try and keep focus on particular areas. So it is you do learn a lot in that first year, I think.
And the girl power, did that kind of all you coming together like that? I mean, obviously.
Well, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? I think that's just the way it went. But I think there has been a bit of a change in vibe, if you like, to do with the Legislative Council, and I hope that has been, maybe it's been seen as a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not sure, but the people that are working there now are working hard, and we are bringing a different perspective, and I hope that it's seen as a positive thing where there is challenge or scrutiny or question from that side of things. So yeah.
And how do you find it when in Tynwald, making your first question, or standing on your feet for the first time? You've had a little bit of have you just a little bit of nerves, maybe, how to put it?
Well, I got that out the way quite quickly with the first question.
You were straight in, weren't you?
And also speaking of voting against something as well. I think that's what you're there to do. So if you're ever getting this sense of, should I, shouldn't I, then what have you got to do? You've got to think, well, who are you there for? You're there for the people. Tynwald is not government, whilst the Legislative Council has a specific job to do in terms of scrutiny and looking at legislation as a second look, and absolutely it is Keys that has primacy. When you're looking at things and voting on things in Tynwald, then you really have to, you shouldn't really be of any doubt in yourself, thinking, should I, shouldn't I speak about this? To me, that's the measure, isn't it? You're going to be thinking, am I going to think, I should have said something about that, or I should have,
Yeah. What's been your toughest call so far? I mean, obviously the abortion thing was still going through and that sort of thing. I mean, do you feel that was very important, or? Well,
I think reflecting it over the past year, a lot had happened. Somebody coming new into Parliament and into the system and all that entails. There was the abortion reform bill that had already been going through such a process in the House of Keys. There was a sense that actually, well, no, it's done, and because so much time and so much scrutiny and so much heart and mind had been put into it, that actually, it should actually just be fine as it was, a case of get it done. But I think that even in the Legislative Council, the mover at the time there said, well, actually, Legislative Council will take the right amount of time, and we didn't go overboard. We kept to the right schedule. We didn't hold anything up. We did what we're supposed to do, and actually, Legislative Council added to that. I think there was 80 or so amendments that went through that have added to that bill without messing with the scope in terms of what the House of Keys as the directly elected representatives and as the branch with primacy had essentially dictated. But it wasn't, just that, because then, of course, we went on to matters to do with Brexit and the huge amounts of regulations, and the Isle of Man trying to position itself to deal with, what's still unknowns.
Is there any legislation you'd like to see passed? I mean, do you see yourself in that position that you will like to do a private member's bill on something? You've got something up your sleeve?
I mean, there isn't any particular topics. I know that there's quite a few, moves and efforts within Keys members to pursue different types of what we probably broadly term social legislation. I think we've seen kind of the beginning of that, really. So I think in terms of Legislative Council, our role is to really, in some of those ways, to look to support or add to the efforts of Keys members. But that said, there has been one aspect where, I have broached it with the Legislative Council in terms of a bill that would look to change or have the conversation about how we'd look to deal with secondary legislation. Members of the Legislative Council can bring through private members' bills. It's not often the case, but where that route exists to say, look, should we have a look at what we're doing this, or how would that work with other efforts elsewhere, even if somebody else wanted to take it over? My interest with this was to do with how we look and how we deal with secondary legislation and the scrutiny around that. So it is possible if someone wants to do it.
But nothing in particular you got your eye set on, you wanted to bring your own stuff?
No, I mean, I think, that's really big changes. That's the keys.
Okay. Let's talk about pay and all that sort of thing, because I've asked everyone about this. You're getting the same money, and you've gone to DOI, haven't you? So you've got the uplift and all that sort of thing. Your views on pay,
I think,
and expenses.
Right. Yeah, expenses.
Probably that's what I meant. Yeah. Expenses.
When I was, before I was elected, I was under the expectation that this element of expenses, particularly for MLCs, would be dealt with soon. So for me, it's a little bit odd that this is still hanging around, because actually it's a really quite odd position to be in. The expenses are generally thought of to be part of the overall salary for members, and it's a bit of a outdated thing to have the expenses. There is a difference between being an MLC and MHK. Obviously there is a greater constituency commitment, if you just think about sheer numbers. But then we're all Tynwald members, and we all are doing maybe different emphasis of jobs. But actually I think the whole thing needs to be looked at, because it's not just the expenses, it's not just about MLC versus MHK in terms of the pay they get. There is the element that I think that needs to be looked at to do with the chairs of the scrutiny committees, and that there's no uplift received for that. You get an uplift to be a department member, so to be a member and add to the efforts of the executive, there's an uplift. And obviously there are quite a few departmental members, but there's no uplift or recognition of the chairs of the scrutiny committee. So I think it all needs to be
So you think the expenses are just part of your salary? That's how you view it in that sense?
That is basically how it's treated.
Okay, that's expenses.
It needs to be looked at. The expenses element of it needs to be taxed.
What about pay then? Oh, okay, it should be taxed.
Yeah, the treatment of it needs to change. And the overall look at, and I think that work has started with the Emoluments Committee, but now it's going to be reviewed externally. And that's what needs to happen.
What about the pay structure then now? You're on the same technically, so do you think that's the right way of doing it, or what? More money for MHKs, less money for you, or are you happy? You think it's the right system for payment?
Well, I think there is scope to look at it and change it. I do think that, and there is a difference between MHKs and MLCs. That's not to say that MLCs don't deal with people, that bring issues. The way I see it is, it seems to be that you might. I know that I've helped people to do with issues that might actually affect not just one person, but like a group of people, if you like. So that's how I would approach it, but I was expecting that to be looked at, and I think it's part of a bigger picture. All this stuff needs to be looked at too.
Are you enjoying yourself? Is that the right word? Enjoying? Are you keeping busy enough?
Yes, I'm definitely keeping busy. I think when you do get a chance to step back and think, well, actually, I did something there and it made a difference and it helped someone, or that was the right thing to do, or I challenged, I asked a question and I'm happy with that, then you need to actually take those small wins. Because one of the things, I'm not somebody who's come from government or civil service before, so I'm still getting used to the fact that it takes a while for things to happen.
You're still learning, or
Well, I think, you know, you're always, I mean, it's such a, government, it's huge, isn't it? So it's going to take a while to get to grips with all the little nuances of the system.
Well, now you're in and all that. I mean, I know it's a long way away, but would you, at this stage, consider making this a career path? You know, stand again in what, 4 years' time, whatever it will be. How do you feel so far about it?
I think I'd judge it nearer the time.
Yeah.
But I think it's best to just sort of not necessarily think about what you're going to do next at that time, because in the meantime, a year in, you've got a job to do. And you're there, you know, you're there for the people. You're not there, you know, for your own, thinking about your own progression. And, you know, I'm not at the end of my career yet, so I don't want to, you know, look too far ahead.